So a very good afternoon everybody and welcome back to Scotland. Now yesterday or the day before, I can't remember which because they've kind of bled into one at this point, I drove up through the night to John O'Groats, 558 miles, to take a selfie in front of a signpost. And then had a bit of a walk around attempting to make something of a YouTube video to only realise it's over commercialised, extremely touristy. And in all honesty, there's not a lot there. So this is the day after. Welcome to Duncansby Head. There's some sea stacks behind me. Let's take some long exposure photographs of these beautiful sea stacks just outside of Wick. So I've got the camera composed now. It's just time to wait for this rain to clear so we can put some filters on the front of this to take a long exposure photograph of these sea stacks. I've gone a little bit wider just to begin with, and then we're going to punch in and zoom around as the day goes on. But first of all, I just wanted to go something nice and wide, get all of the cliff line in, as well as the sea stacks. The tide's in, so there's a lot of white water swirling around the base of the cliffs and around the bottom of the sea stacks and all the little rocks poking out of the sea. So hopefully we'll start off with quite an interesting looking long exposure photograph. So hopefully this rain moves on pretty sharpish. So this has taken way longer than I would hoped for it to do, but I just kind of had to wait for the rain shower just to pass on a little bit. But I think we finally got somewhere with this now. On the front of the camera lens, I have a polarizing filter rotated just to take some of the shine off of the sea. I have a 10-stop filter and a 3-stop filter, giving, well, about 14 stops of filtration all in all. So down at f3.5, that is giving me a 60-second exposure time. Let's go ahead using my 2-second timer. We'll take a photograph. We've punched in right on the cliffs and the rocks and the sea stacks. And like I'm hoping I said before, all of the swirling around should give some really fun patterns in the sea as well. As soon as this photograph is taken, I'll show it to you. Alright, so my next plan is I've thrown the long lens on the 40-150, full frame equivalent 80-300 for those of you that don't know the crop factor of Micro Four Thirds. The middle sea stack, it looked really kind of fun. It's really pointy at the top. There is a smaller sea stack next to it and there is some rocks in the water just throwing around some turbulent water. I thought if we throw the long lens on, zoom right in onto them, we'll just take another long exposure and see how it turns out. Let's have a look. So here we go, the camera's now set up. So I've got the long lens on, I've got a polarizing filter on, just taking some of the shine off of the water again. I've got the 10-stop ND filter on, I've took the 3-stop off, didn't want to go quite as long for this one. And we've got a soft-edged 3-stop graduate filter on, just to bring the sky in the background back a little tiny bit. There's not much sky in there, but the sky that was in there was blowing out at 25 seconds. So f8, 25 seconds, ISO 200. Here's a slightly more punched in photograph of the middle sea stack and some of the rocks with the water swirling around it in the foreground. Alright, so that one was going to be the last photograph from this spot, but I kind of realised there is a bit of a sea arch just behind me, and in my mind's eye I can throw a tight crop around that and get quite an interesting looking photograph with a little bit of rock that's sticking out next to it and all of the things swirling around it. So, same sort of setup as before, only I've taken the soft edge grad off because I don't need it for this, there's no sky in there. So we've got the 10-stop filter on, f8, 20 seconds, ISO 200. Hopefully, if I can crop this how I can see it in my mind, we'll get quite a nice looking photograph. So whatever comes out of the camera and Lightroom, here it is. So I'm going to go for a little walk around this headland now. The fence and the footpath suggest you may be able to get a little bit closer to the sea stacks than where I was previously stood. And I kind of thought, why not? Let's have a walk around and just see if we can't find a different vantage point from where we are, you know, get a little bit closer, maybe get some beaches in, who knows. So let's have a little wander and just see what we come across. I've already sort of spotted something on the walk. Let's investigate. So this is the spot I've just come across, and you see how the 3 sort of stacks, the first arch and the 2 stacks behind it, kind of live in a line. I don't think that would work. It'd be fun for doing something with layering, but the separation would it'd be lost a little bit, and I just don't think it would have the same sort of effect as it has in my mind. So I think this is a photograph we'll leave, but I just wanted to show you what I was thinking previously. Alright, so no barbed wire is the right amount of barbed wire. I've managed to slip over a fence undetected, and on this headland I think it's attached to the sea arch that was previously stood on. But you can see just how much closer and how much bigger them sea stacks are from here. Now there is another headland just behind me, and there are a lot of people stood on there, which suggests you can get a little bit closer. I was wondering if we can't maybe throw a wide lens on and get some of this grass, some of the cliff and the sea arches, sorry, the sea stacks back there. Now I say sea stacks as plural. Where I've perched myself, I've managed to kind of make them seem as one, as to eliminate any sort of distance and separation issues thinking in the photograph. So let's get a camera set up and see if we can take a photograph from this illegal patch of land. Alright, so I've got everything set up on top of this cliff now. I've got the camera set up, I've got a photograph composed, and let's just take this as quickly as possible, because it seems like somewhere where wind would come and blow you off, or B, someone would take exception to it and tell you off for being stood here. So I've got the camera orientated now, so we're getting a little bit of the greenery as a foreground, we're getting the cliffs in over in that direction, and both of the sea stacks. Like I said earlier on, I've tried to orientate these so they appear as one, just to remove some sort of separation issues in the photograph. So let's move off and talk about the camera. So I've got a polarizing filter on, taking the shine off of the water. I've got the 10-stop filter on, giving us a long exposure look, and I've thrown the 3-stop soft edge grad on just to bring the sky back because it's a little bit bright. So here we go, F9, 20 seconds, 2-second timer. Here's the photograph. Alright, so now I've stood on that bit of death, it's time to climb over the barbed wire, and I want to go investigate why everybody's sort of hanging around over there, climbing over the fence and taking pictures. It suggests there may actually be a picture to be taken, doesn't it? So let's scooch down this path a bit more. Let's go see if we can find one more photograph of these sea stacks. I'm hoping it's one we can see like inches away from your face and you can make it look really big and impressive in a photograph, because that'd be cool. Let's go, let's see what it does. Alright, I found it. I'm not gonna lie, this is scary as a scary thing doing scary stuff. I really want to take a photo, but I don't know if you can see, the wind's really chopped up and I'm on a... it's about that wide. I'm thinking there is a photo, it's ultra wide. I may just take it without you and show you the final result, so I haven't got too many things to fall over. Yeah, let's have a look, let's take a photo. Alright, so I've kind of got the camera set up. I've got the 12mm on the, well, the 12 to 40 on the Olympus EM1 Mark II. We're so close and down low on the deck, it is so windy and there's a lot of sand flying about. It's making for a lot of distractions, if I'm being honest with you. I want to do the same again. I want to do a long exposure photograph here, but wind, you know? Wind and long exposures and wobbling tripods don't make for good looks. So I'm wondering if I can maybe throw a polarizing filter on, maybe a really light ND filter, and use the Olympus's live composite mode to do a long exposure photograph. So let me take a couple of minutes and just see if I can figure this one out, and I'll get back to you once I've sort of got a plan in my mind. Alright, let me show you the camera here quickly. We've got polarizers, we've got ND filters, and we've got grads on. Now, like I said before, I'm going to use the live comp mode on this camera. So I've got everything set up so we're around a second exposure time. So if I press the start button, that's going to take a base photograph for me. And now if I press the go button again, this is going to take the same photograph over and over again every second, but it's only going to layer the lightest parts of the photograph on. So that should give us the long exposure movement in the water. The rocks will obviously stay still even though the rocks aren't moving. That was a really stupid thing to say. But the theory goes that the longer I leave this running, the longer it's going to look like it was taken. So we're currently at 23 seconds. I can already see on the camera that we've got a long exposure look happening. So let's just leave it for around a minute and see what happens. I am slightly concerned about the wind wobbling the tripod. I've spider-legged this thing and get it as low to the ground as possible. I've done everything I can. It's just trial and error at this point, and hopefully we'll get a nice looking photograph at the end of it. Alright, so thank you for watching this video of me doing sketchy stuff around Duncansby Head and the amazing sea stacks behind us. Tune in next time for my next part of this adventure. We're going to go back to Port Knocky and Beaufort Rock, which is somewhere I headed in February, but I kind of feel like there's some unfinished business to be done there. The tide's looking good for it, the weather's looking good for it. All I've got to do is get up in bed and go for it. So tune in next time to see Beaufort Rock and Port Knocky. But thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. It really does help the video and it brings new viewers to see my content. And if you liked it more than that, you can press the subscribe button below me and you'll see more nonsense from myself every single week. Hopefully not on a cliff top in a gale. I love you and leave you and say peace and goodbye.